Right, well, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to Warwick Castle and our Flight of the Eagle show. My name is David. I'm one of the falconers that works here, and if you're not so sure as to what a falconer does exactly, well, my job is to train and fly the birds of prey here at Warwick Castle. And in this show, I've got 3 of our absolutely amazing birds that I would love to introduce you to. The first of which, as you can now see, is sat up on the end of my gloved arm. This is Archie, everybody. And I know for a fact some of you may even be able to recognise exactly what type of eagle Archie is, as he's one of the more familiar eagle species out there, as he is the North American bald eagle. So as the name would suggest, North American, well, it's North America where you find these eagles living out in the wild. So that's north of Mexico, up through various states of the good old US of A, and indeed Canada, where you find them. Do we have any people in from like North America today at all? Quietest Americans ever? Usually make a lot more noise. I do apologise, Archie has no idea that North America exists, because Archie is a British bald eagle. There you are. He hatched out of his egg in Kent of all places. I've known this amazing eagle all of his life. I know him well enough to know that he's not allowed to sit on the castle walls. Straight away, I called Archie in, and he had this look about him. He's seen something that he really is not keen about, which is exactly why he's on one of the highest parts of the castle. He's actually feeling quite nervous at this particular moment. But the show must go on, and I'll just have to wait and see exactly what's going on in Archie's mind. I really know him so well, I could just tell by the look in his eye something's upset him, and that's why he's now on the wall just below the mound tower. But when it comes to the training, excuse me, of this magnificent eagle, I didn't train him here. We actually trained him up at our base, which is in the North Yorkshire Dales. We live on the side of a great big hillside called Pen-y-Ghent. That's one of the 3 peaks of North Yorkshire. The other 2, they're called Ingleborough and Whernside. Archie's not putting on a good flying demonstration at the moment, but believe me, he really is a masterclass flyer. He's absolutely amazing, I promise you. But the conditions we have today here at Warwick Castle, this sunshine is absolutely beautiful. There's just one thing that I'm really missing out on, and that's a good wind direction. You see, we've trained Archie to soar the skies, something eagle species do ever so well. But without the wind direction today, Archie, well, he's completely and utterly refusing to work at the moment. But even if he was actually going to fly, it would be very, very difficult for him. The wind direction I require for Archie to be at his best here is a southwesterly, and it blows from the river straight up this grass bank we're situated on, and because we have the mound here and the back of the castle itself, therefore that becomes a lifting wind. And what Archie does, he goes down the river road, turns left, and then when he gets to the fresh air on the top of the mound, all he has to do is hold open that 6-foot wingspan and let the wind do all the hard work for him. But I am quite shocked at Archie today. Even if something does bother him, he's usually quite happy to actually make an appearance. So there is something here that really does scare Archie. And they're all different, you see. And I really hope you appreciate what Archie's doing right now. Don't get me wrong, I'd love him to be flying for you. He's amazing when he flies. But Archie right now, he's actually making a choice. And he's choosing to sit up on the top of the castle wall. He's going to take off now, but I really am not convinced that Archie's coming into the arena. I can assure you of that. But hopefully we'll get him up in the sky nonetheless. But I think he's going to come back round. Hopefully, yeah, he's going to perch up in the tree there. So I knew that straight away. I'm just trying to see what it is, you know. Archie, he's not so fond with guide dogs or something like that. And one of his biggest fears, you know, you won't believe this, it's actually drag-along luggage. He's terrified of the stuff. But if you turn it around and push it, that's absolutely fine. Perfectly acceptable. So he's ripping off down there now, and hopefully we'll be able to get him back up so I can give him some food. That's what this is all about, you see. This isn't playtime for Archie. This is his one and only opportunity to get a meal today. So if he chooses to not come back to the arena, then that's his own choice, and I cannot reward him for it. If he turns up and does his job, I'm going to be quite happy and give him all of his daily food requirements. But what he's actually doing now, he's waiting down the bottom end of the River Island in hope that James is going to call him in. The last thing I want Archie to do now is to try and find a thermal. With this bit of sunshine we've got here, and it's going to warm up now, some thermals may appear. And a thermal, children, is a current of warm air. They spiral from the ground upwards. Archie loves them. When he finds a thermal, he just sets his wings rock solid, and I kid you not, you know, I've seen him in conditions like this go so high you can't see him anymore. We really are talking thousands and thousands of feet up in the air. He just disappears. People often think, well, there you go, you're never going to see that bald eagle again. But Archie always comes back to Warwick Castle. Not because I'm here, because of this green bag hanging off my right hip. At the moment, it's full of chickens and pigeon. I want to give Archie some, but at the moment, he's busy doing his own thing. But if he turns up, I'm going to give him a reward. I can just see him through the trees here. He's trying his hardest to get some height, but I just don't think it's going to be possible. But I think Archie, he's just about burnt his bridges as far as this show is concerned today, because I really would like to move on and get a bird out that hopefully will do some flying. So James, can you see Archie from there? You try and see if you can get him in for me, that would be much appreciated. See him looking at this look, and he'll come straight in down there. Do you think he deserves a round of applause? I think he deserves the shotgun. Only joking. And that's fine. If he's upset, he's upset. There's absolutely nothing I can do about it. I just wish you'd have got to see him fly a bit closer. But the next bird, he's already in place and ready and waiting. I can bring him out now Archie is gone. Certainly wouldn't want this little chap out at the same time as Archie, being a much smaller individual. I'm sure you'd all be very aware of how things would end up. But this bird here, this is Bruce. And Bruce is our 3-year-old grey eagle buzzard. They're also known under a different name, and they are often referred to as blue Chilean eagles. They really are beautiful birds, and the last name might give you a great indication as to where these birds are found living in the wild. Certainly not found here in the United Kingdom. People often confuse it with our buzzard that we have, but this is a much, much larger individual. And they're found throughout South America. And young Bruce here at 3 years of age, he's a bit of an up-and-coming star really, is young Bruce. He's performing ever so well, and I can see a great deal of potential turning up in this individual. I know what they're like because I've already trained one of these birds before. They really are spectacular individuals, but I'll tell you more about that a little bit later on in the show. But young Bruce here at 3 years of age, he's just turning into his adult colours. When I first trained him, he was sandy brown all over, just like the colour on his legs. You might not be able to see it so well, you've all got the sun in your eyes. But on the backs of his wings, they go in a lovely grey colour. This bib around his head and his neck, that will go quite a deep blue. So that's where he gets the names from, the grey eagle buzzard or the blue Chilean eagle. As far as our common buzzard is concerned, this bird here is about half the size bigger again. Our common buzzard, he's called Dangerous Brian for a reason. He weighs 1 pound and 12 ounces. Bruce here is weighing in at 3 pounds and 4 ounces. A much more substantial bird. And these amazing raptors, they love to soar around. Let's face it, South America, it's going to be a lot hotter than Warwickshire today, that's for sure. So on the mountains, they really do like to live in seriously mountainous areas. That's why he has that substantial wingspan, getting on for 4 feet, and the large broad tail. They love to soar around, they're excellent at it. But Bruce here at Warwick Castle, he doesn't have the skill of Archie. Well, Archie certainly didn't put his skill to the test today though, did he, however? But look at Bruce, nonetheless, he's putting in 110% effort. He will get much better, you know. It can take quite a few years before we see our birds of prey at their very best. Honestly, when we first started flying him here, I had to tell the crowd, if he's heading in your direction and you're convinced he's crashing into you, then he probably is. But thankfully, he's got much, much better. He was in his baby feathers then. The baby feathers are completely different to an adult bird's feathers. You see, when a bird of prey fledges the nest, and I'll show you this a little later on, because I'm going to fly a young bald eagle with a much older bald eagle, and hopefully you will all see how very different they are. The feathers are longer and softer, because when they're learning how to fly, they are very, very clumsy individuals, often crashing into trees, banging into walls. They make a right hash of things, but the feathers are so very, very soft, they do not break. And when they get to be mature age, so Bruce, maturity for him is 4, maybe 5 years. The feathers are a completely different condition. They're slightly shorter, but they are much more powerful, therefore enabling the bird to put a lot more power into his flight. And these birds, they've got a serious turn of speed, you know. Sadly, that flag there is barely even moving, so Bruce is already thinking to himself, I'm just going to do the bare minimum of work, that's for sure. But when we get that southwesterly breeze up, Bruce, you know, he's way higher than these pigeons going overhead, sometimes 200 or 300 feet up in the air, and you want to see him dive down. He's getting on for like 80 or 90 miles an hour, but they're capable of much, much more. His dad, you know, he would go up 500 or 600 feet, and you know that when he's diving into the arena, he's well over 100 miles an hour. Nothing like a peregrine falcon, however. If you're not aware of what they're capable of, speeds of over 200 miles per hour. Faster than a Formula 1 car, can you believe? That's the peregrine. But let's face it, that little dive there, just to give you a little taster of really what he's capable of. And these birds out in the wild, they are very, very powerful predators. Archie the bald eagle, he's weighing in at over 9 pounds with a 6-foot wingspan. But they're fish eagles. They snatch fish clean off the surface of the water. Bruce isn't interested in that kind of stuff. He would be looking to catch large mammals, such as rabbits, for instance, maybe even larger mammals like hares. But they're also very happy to eat all manner of things. Like our common buzzard, they're quite happy to eat earthworms and beetles, and he will even act like a vulture and scavenge, look around for dead things. But the last thing I want my birds of prey thinking is that they can terrorise the local wildlife. But there is a historical link to me being stood here right now. Birds of prey were kept at Warwick Castle many years ago, but they were kept for a completely different reason as to why we have birds here. Our birds are for educational purposes, flying them in the shows essentially. I don't want Bruce thinking he can nip down to the River Avon and try and catch a duck, for instance. But unfortunately, well, that's why Bruce actually works here, you know. I trained his dad. He's called Ebor, and he was a top-class demonstration flyer, a true professional. But unfortunately, he would not leave the local wildlife alone. And he was very, very interested in chasing all manner of things around. And we flew him here, you know, for probably 5 years without any incident whatsoever. But back in 2010, that's when it went horribly wrong for Ebor, because that was the year he got fired. And I know you won't know what that means, children, but essentially he's not allowed back at Warwick Castle anymore. And I'll tell you when it all started on that very same day. Seen something, have you? Oh look, he's found a worm. There you go, bit of free lunch for you. That's the easiest piece of food you'll ever get. Don't go looking for him now, there's no more. And look at this, he's found a worm and he's actually looking for more. I'm not going to give you any, he wants me to pick him up now for a piece of food. But I'm not interested. Yes, look, I know you're a buzzard, you're not allowed to eat the worms. But if he wants a worm, he's going to eat it anyway, isn't he? Let's face it. Right, Bruce, it's up to you. I'm not going to pick you up for any food. You clearly don't want to come to me, so I'm just going to leave you there and we'll let you sort it out yourselves. But yeah, his dad, don't look for worms. His dad was amazing. Back in 2010, I was flying him in the summer season and he was doing a spectacular job as he always did. He was probably a few hundred feet up above the arena. We had that great southerly wind that I mentioned to you earlier on, and he was repeatedly diving onto the log in the middle of the arena. And then on the last flight, he went up substantially higher, and I thought, great, what a way to end a show. I reckon he was like 1,000 feet. You could barely see him up there. So I walked towards the log with a piece of food, as I do all the time, to call him in, and he knows exactly what that means. But as I was looking, I just looked up to clock him once more. I was mortified. He were already diving out of the air. And I'm thinking, no, you don't do this. You know exactly what we're doing. But what was actually happening, he was actually tracking some ducks that were coming from the east front. They're all over the place sometimes, the ducks getting bread, crisp sandwiches, you name it. And the ducks are coming round the castle here in clear view of everybody to get to the River Avon. I'm chucking out food here, trying to intercept. I don't want him thinking he can do those sorts of things. But I reckon I could have thrown a leg of lamb out. He weren't going to change his mind. He'd already marked his duck and he were after it. I mean, he was falling out of the heavens. The ducks are getting to the river, but where that generator light is, just at the bottom of the island, sadly one of the ducks, he had a bad day that day, that was for sure. Because he caught him about 40 feet up in the air. Now, when he caught him, he certainly was not messing around. He hit him with those very large, powerful feet, and there was one almighty explosion of feathers. You wouldn't have believed it. Don't get me wrong, it was spectacular. Everyone were cheering. One guy's going, get him to do it again. But because he had that duck firmly in his grasp, that was the end of the show as far as Ybor was concerned. It got a little bit more shocking then for the youngsters when he landed up in one of these tall trees here and then started to pluck it and eat it. And there's a lot of feathers on a duck, I can assure you. It was almost like it was snowing. But because he'd had himself a very substantial meal that day, he no longer wanted to come back to us. And it actually took us about 3 days to get him back under control again. A substantial meal like that really can tip the tables, because they're only interested in us because of the food we provide them. Bruce isn't flying back to me because he loves me, that's for sure, because I'm rewarding him to do so. So when he had the duck, that was it. He was the happiest grey eagle buzzard ever. But we got him back under control and flew him in the shows again, thinking it was a bit of a one-off. But how wrong were we? Because about 2 weeks after that particular duck incident, well, we reckon he'd caught about a dozen more things. Very popular with the ducks again, grey squirrels, wood pigeons, jackdaws, grass snakes, can you believe? He caught one on the side of the mound. It were about 2.5 feet long, and it went down like a giant piece of spaghetti, can you believe? But our entertainment manager was furious. Trevor Broom, he's called. He no longer works here at the castle, and he actually walked from his office to Ybor's enclosure. It was like The Apprentice. You're fired. Get out of my castle. Disaster. We genuinely had to stop flying him here. He got into that much trouble. But what we did, you know, we would never just rehome a bird because of such an incident. So what we did, we found him a beautiful girlfriend called Heather. They're over at the International Centre for Birds of Prey in Gloucestershire, and they're now a very well established breeding pair. And young Bruce here, he's the 7th out of the 9 babies that we've bred so far. It really is wonderful. They're not so easy to come by are the grey eagle buzzards, and as far as I'm aware, I think ours is one of the only breeding pairs here in the UK. So a few of the falconers now have actually got to fly these birds thanks to Ybor and Heather, and they really are magnificent flyers. And I've pushed Bruce a little bit harder than what I have done, and he's had to make up for Archie's part of the show. But as you can see, he's doing ever so well. I really do wish we had that southerly breeze for you, and he would fly completely different. So getting him to circle like this, I just hold my hands up in the air. He's got his beady eyes on me, and he's essentially saying, put your hands down, I don't want to keep flying in circles. But it just enables me to get a couple of low flybys for you, and you can just see how magnificent he really is. But on that circle, I think he's reached his limit. So how about you give Bruce a really big round of applause. Hello there. Oh yes, that's you done now. As you can see, we have no problems with him in the arena box. Just pop him a little piece of food in there, and he'll be flying whilst I find the last bird for the show. She's already on the platform, actually. There she just happens to be the largest species of eagle in the whole world. That bird there, she's called Nikita, and she is a Steller's sea eagle. Now, Steller's sea eagles, they're found in parts of eastern Russia. The majority of them, that's not a random person up there, that's Richard, by the way, he's meant to be there. These birds are found in a peninsula in eastern Russia called Kamchatka. The reason this bird is as large as it is, I mean, look at the size of its beak, it stands out so very well. That's because temperatures drop down to about -50. So this bird here really is designed for life in the freezer. She came to us from a zoo in the Czech Republic, Prague Zoo I think it was, when she was just 2 years of age. She didn't look like this, she looked completely different. And if you want to see all the birds of prey, head down the river road to the right hand side. Nikita will be there, and her future boyfriend Marvin. He's 2 years of age, and you'll see exactly what she looked like. Now, to fly an eagle like this here, we're doing it between Richard on the steps and James on the tower there. And what we're going to do now, we're going to ask Nikita to come back to James, and then we're going to set her quite a difficult task. And what we're going to do, we're going to ask her to fly all the way to the top of Guy's Tower. Without any wind to help her at all, we do have to give her quite a strenuous workout. So she's heading back over, and you see Richard there, give him a really big wave. Go for it, Richard! Richard is now going to run all the way to the top of Guy's Tower for you, for your viewing pleasure and entertainment only. When you see him appear at the top, give him a really big round of applause. He is pretty quick, is our Richard. And we'll just have a quick look at Nikita here. She's feeling the effects already of a tough day's work. That great big, there he is. Well done, Richard. So this eagle on the platform, her wingspan is about 8 feet. Not only that, it's the weight. She's much, much heavier than Archie. She's weighing in at around 8.5 kilos. To be precise, she's 17.5 pounds. Absolutely enormous. All that weight she's got to drag through the air. So to get to Guy's Tower today, she's probably going to do a little bit of tower hopping. She's just landed low of the Mound Tower. The wings are drooped already. That's how difficult it is for an eagle of this size. And what she may want to do now is go over to Spy Tower, the thin tower on the back of the castle, or then maybe over onto Caesar's Tower on the far corner. And to work a Steller's sea eagle here, this is pretty much how we have to work them. But when we have that strong breeze blowing up the river here, from the river, sorry, she really is a very graceful flyer. She often flies like Archie, just resting her wings and soaring around. They're such lazy individuals. Birds like Archie and Nikita here, they can fly for as little as 20 to 30 minutes in a whole day. The bald eagle and the Steller's sea eagle are fish eagles, often perched up like they'd be now, but in a tree or a cliff face, overlooking the surface of the water. They're not going to fly around and around a lake or up and down a river. It's pointless. They just tend to sit there, play the waiting game, and use their amazing eyesight to spot things. Their eyesight will be 8 to 10 times better than our vision. Absolutely amazing. And when it comes to catching a fish, they end up flying really low over the surface of the water, and at the last second the feet come right out in front of the body, and on the ends of Nikita's toes, you'll see her here at the end of the show, some of her talons, they're over 2 inches long. They are huge. And then she'll stick those needle-sharp talons into the slippery creature and pull it clean off the surface of the water. Fish weighing into 2 or 3 kilos, can you believe? Very powerful. There she goes. Look, she's obviously had a good breather, and I think she's going to go for it now. I think she's going to put the power down and try and get to the top of Guy's Tower in one go. Has she got enough pace? Yeah, well done, Nikita. Give her a round of applause. That's brilliant. I'm so glad she's achieved that. Sometimes when she tries to get from the mound to there in one go, she often fails monumentally. I've actually seen her miss the top of the tower by about 6 feet, and then she's trying to scramble her way back up. Interesting, but she's up there now, and that's brilliant. Richard's given her a nice substantial reward, and I'll let her have a breather, and then I'll bring her back down into the arena. and then you can see how a Steller sea eagle slows themselves down. The bald eagle, you know, and Bruce, they come in with such grace. These birds, however, being the supertanker of the eagle world, look completely and utterly out of control. The legs will be going everywhere, the wings, you name it, but that's exactly how they come into land. So I'm putting my hand in my bag now. She will have spotted that already. That's how good her eyesight is. And the second I approach this log, Nikita should already be making her way down into the arena. So I'll put her out some food now, some chicken, and you watch the air brakes now. There is no wind, so she can't land straight into the wind. Oh, steady on you. There you go, and a nice soft landing. Give Nikita and the rest of the birds a final round of applause. I can assure you they've done their best for you today. Now, I have another show coming up a bit later on at 3 o'clock with 4 completely different birds in it. And like I said, if you want to see the eagles, including Nikita, head down the river road to the right-hand side. All birds are on show for you today here. And I'm going to give Nikita substantial food now because that's her flying time done for 2015. She's going to go into an aviary with Marvin, and hopefully they're going to get on quite well, and essentially they will be a future breeding pair. But I hope you've enjoyed the show. I do apologise about Archie's antics, but thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.